Right, this is a public meeting. Over to you.
Yes, I have a question for all three of you. Every day when we switch on the news, the report says the country is pretty much bankrupt. We're going to have to find savings, big budget, big cuts to the department. If we don't implement it well, we know what's going to happen. So the question to each one of you is, how are you going to manage with a greatly reduced budget? What savings are you going to find? So what the public are looking for is much less money spent, but much more effective policing. How would you approach it? Thank you.
Let's go first. Paul?
Funding is a real challenge. There's no doubt about that. How you actually deal with the money is actually incredibly critical. Because what you're looking to do is get the best value for every pound that you've got. One aspect that clearly he's looking at quite carefully is what money is spent where and how effective it is. And we actually think that there's quite a bit of saving that you can still do within the system to actually ensure that. Through collaborative working with neighbouring police forces, a lot of that's been done already. But we think there is perhaps further steps and further savings that may be found in that. Having said that, there are some areas of collaborative working where there is some evidence to suggest that it's not working particularly well. The people involved in it are not particularly motivated and positive, and actually, by coming out of those aspects of it, you may actually provide a better service with the existing resources. There are other aspects of police funding that you can look at as well. But I will raise no bones and will not say at any stage that we would not, under any circumstances, increase the police precinct as part of the council tax. That might have to happen, but it would depend on ensuring that whatever we raised, we actually spent effectively on the ground.
Yes, yeah, we are in very difficult times in terms of trying to make savings, and the police wouldn't be any exception, really. Well, first thing we need to do is make sure that we're not wasting any money in any of the areas, in any of the services that are being provided already, or if there's any duplication. All of that would need to be looked at to see if there is any room, to make sure that the jobs that are being done aren't being done, surplus to requirement. That would need to be reviewed to make sure that there's not too much being spent on it. The whole business of collaboration is a really, really, good thing to do, as long as it is making the savings. And we know that there is a fairly successful collaboration going on at the moment between the Hertfordshire, Bedfordshire and Cambridgeshire. I think some of those collaboration activities have been quite successful. Maybe, as has been said before, maybe some parts of it may not be working so well. So I think, we would need to look at how well that is doing and what can be saved there. Also, I think the one big thing that ought to happen is partnership working, is reviewing all the partnership working that's going on with the services that support the police and support the community. There are lots of organisations that are working with victims, Neighbourhood Watch, probation, and all those kinds of services that work with people. I would think there's probably some duplication of effort going on there, and some of them being in the voluntary sector are finding things quite difficult to manage anyway. And if we've got, victims to look after, for example, why couldn't we look at sitting down around the table and see who could best provide that service and what savings can be made there? But I think the best way we can actually provide any kind of service for anyone is to work in collaboration or to work in partnership. And I think that might be the way that we actually move forward, is if everybody agrees to do that.
Well, I suppose the first thing I'd say is, of course, I've been intimately involved in getting there already, so I suppose the advantage I've got is I really understand those accounts, I understand just how difficult it is. Let's put it in context, let's talk about some of the figures. Out of a £210 million budget, we've had to find £35 million worth of savings, and we can see our way through to that. At the very worst case scenario, we think, given the likely impact of the next round of the spending review, the CSR, we're likely to be looking at a £70 million saving is needed to be found. And actually what happens is that picks up on some of what Sherma said in response to the last question, the introductory question, which is how are you going to do it, what other ways? And you know, one of the things that we do need to look at is how we provide policing in a more effective and a more efficient way. We've already done a lot of that collaboration. I've been very, very involved in the collaboration with cams and beds, and there are things which make sense to do across 2 or 3 forces. Roads policing, for instance, makes a lot of sense to have that combined. Major crime makes a great deal of sense to do that as a collaborated service, because thankfully you don't have terrible incidents happening in one place very frequently. So actually you can bring together the expertise, and if you have a murder, it'll be up in Bedfordshire or up in Cambridgeshire or in Hertfordshire, but it's very, very rare to happen in the same place at the same time. So you can make savings in those sorts of areas. We've already done that, so the easy stuff's been done. So to an extent, those first thoughts are already done. One of the things that we know we're looking at, and Sherma mentioned it, is about outsourcing. We do need to look at how we get into the back office some private companies to look at how they can better deliver for the management that they bring to take out the costs in some of the back office. And what I'm talking about, let's be clear, this isn't about privatising the police forces. Some people would have it. This isn't about making a warranted officer work for a private company. They will always and obviously should be part of the police force, and that should be very much keeping the Queen's peace. But if you're running HR and payroll and legal services and those sorts of services, that actually can be run very well by private organisations out there. There are private organisations out there. You'll know that we've been looking at G4S, that's the one which has made the news. We've been looking at G4S, a company which is well known to all of us because of how badly they did in the Olympics. And there's no point in, and obviously when we're looking at who's out there, that will be something which we will weigh up. It's probably the 2nd or 3rd largest organisation in the world. If there had been a sensible organisation, they would have had many different divisions, and no one would have put the G4S we're looking at with the G4S which is running or not running the Olympics. However, that is an organisation which we're looking at, and we're looking at because they're already doing the service very, very successfully in Lincolnshire. So you just want to see what they've got out there and how much they can save. So we will need to look at other ways. The good news is that we know how we're going to save the first 35 million, but there will be another 35 million we need to find, and we do need to keep on pushing and looking at how we deliver services. And I think a lot of what Sherma said is quite right. I don't have a monopoly on those good ideas. A lot of it will be done through delivery in different ways. A lot of it will be done through joining up, not just with other police forces, but actually delivering across other councils, across probation. Probation is one of the key areas. If we get that bit right, the probation looks after those who have already been convicted. If we get that right, and we don't have those who have been convicted re-offending, actually crime falls, and the way that you take out the need to spend as much on policing is to take down the level of crime. So those are the sorts of ways you think outside the box, and I think that's why it's such an exciting role, because actually it starts to give us an opportunity to reshape the whole way that we protect the public.